Today's class is all about how you can use your Qigong exercises and adapt them in order to suit your range of flexibility and mobility. And the reason that I'm teaching this class is that a couple of my Space to Relax members who are in my membership program asked me questions about how they could adapt their movements and the lessons which we go through in the membership in order to really accommodate their individual range of movement. So obviously not everybody is as flexible or adaptable in terms of movement as the next person. Some of us might have issues with being able to lift our arms above shoulder height, for example. Some people may have issues with their lower back, which means they can't bend forwards very easily. And so what I want to show you today are two examples of how you can adapt certain Qigong movements in order to suit your own range of movement. Because remember, the number one rule of Qigong practice is that you need to feel comfortable and relaxed. When you feel comfortable and relaxed, that is what creates the conditions whereby your qi or your energy can flow more smoothly throughout your whole body. So if there's anything at all which causes you to not be comfortable and relaxed, that kind of causes everything to constrict. It constricts the flow of qi through the body, and that's exactly the opposite of what we're looking for. So remember, always, always be comfortable and relaxed. And with any exercises that I show you in these free classes, if you feel there's a move you can't do for whatever reason that your body just doesn't allow you to do, then don't do it. Adapt it, do it in a smaller way, don't do it at all, just sit and breathe. That's perfectly fine, but be comfortable. And for those of you who are new to Qigong, then remember that movement is actually only 1/3 of Qigong practice. It's 1/3 of the practice itself. The other 2/3 are your breath and your mind, which are equally as important. So those three elements come together to give you this lovely flowing Qigong practice that we often see. So if you can't do a particular movement, remember you still have the breath and the mind as your other 2/3 to work with. So please don't feel like Qigong is all about movement. It's absolutely not. I've taught Qigong to people who are wheelchair users, to people with very restricted range of movement, but they can still practice Qigong because they can always use their breath and employ the use of their mind in order to help facilitate the movement of qi. So as I said, this class I'm going to show you kind of a two-part version of what's going on today. I'm going to show you two different exercises or movements whereby some of you might feel a little bit restricted, and I'm going to show you how you can adapt them. The first movement we're going to adapt today is the standing position. So I had a question from one of the my Qigong Space to Relax members, because what she was saying to me was that with the standing position, which traditionally is kind of having the feet parallel with the toes pointing towards the front, she was finding that really difficult because it was pulling around the outside of her hips. It was causing discomfort in the hip area. And that can happen if you move the toes in towards each other. You can feel this extension kind of around the outsides of the thighs and the hips themselves. Because often what we do when we walk, and if you watch people, especially if you're walking behind them, if you watch them walking, they often walk with their feet out to the sides. So often the movement is this, the toes are pointing outwards. They're not walking with feet parallel. Okay, so our natural kind of way in which our body often goes is to have the feet pointing outwards. So what I want you to do is just come to a position where your heels are more towards the center and your feet are more kind of pointing out. Let's say if you were on a clock face, your feet are pointing at, say, 10 to 2. Have a little bend in the knees and just see how that feels. And then bring your toes back into maybe kind of 11 o'clock and a 1 o'clock position with the feet. See how that feels, not just in the feet themselves, but around the hips and the kind of outsides of the thigh area. Just settle for a moment, pay attention to your legs all the way down from the hips right down through the knees to the ankles and the feet. And now bring your feet into parallel position. So the toes are pointing straight ahead, the feet are parallel. So this is our classical Qigong stance. And see how that feels. Again, observing anything around the outer hip area. Now what I like to do is start to move the heels out. So the toes are pointing together, a little bit more kind of pigeon-toed, heels moving outwards. Now how does that feel? Often when you move the heels away from each other slightly, you can feel a little bit more openness in the lower back. So that might suit some of you better. And then go a little bit more extreme with this and really see how far out you can get the heels. And for me now, that starts to really pull around here. So this is definitely not a comfortable position. Okay, so what I want you to do now is for yourself, because all of this with Qigong is about you and your individual range of movement, come into a standing position which you feel is comfortable for you, that's not causing any discomfort around the hips, the tops of the thighs, or in the lower back. So for me, because I've been practicing Qigong for a long time, it's very easy for me to stand with the feet parallel. For many people, the position that they would choose to adapt as the most comfortable one would be with the feet, with the toes just turned very slightly outwards, just to take the pressure off their hips. And that is absolutely fine. So find a position that suits you. And if you find that your position is not in this parallel foot position, and it is with either the heels out slightly or the toes out slightly, just for a moment now, close your eyes. Standing in this position with your knees slightly bent. And I want you to think from your lower back, all the way down your legs, front and backs of the legs, through the knees, through the lower legs, fronts and backs of the lower legs, into the ankles, the heels, the balls of the feet. Maybe allow the weight to fall back into your heels and pick the toes up off the ground. And then place the toes back gently onto the floor. And maybe just rocking forwards and backwards, shifting the weight. And see how that feels as you're standing in the position that's comfortable for you. Keeping the eyes closed now, just decrease that forwards and backwards motion and come to rest in a middle position where you feel as though the weight is evenly distributed between the front or the balls of the feet and the heels. With the eyes closed, bring a smile to the corners of your mouth. And remember, as I said at the beginning of the class, Qigong is made up of 3 elements. So it's the movement or the position of your body, the breath and the mind. So now with the breathing, let's bring that in. And imagine that as you breathe in, you're breathing in through the soles of the feet, drawing the breath all the way up through the legs into the lower abdomen, into dantian, this area here in the lower belly. And then as you breathe out, you're breathing down through the legs, the exhalation traveling all the way down to the soles of the feet and deep down into the earth. So breathing in through the feet and up into the lower abdomen, and breathing out down through the legs. So the mind and the breath are nicely coordinated here. Having that picture in your mind's eye of the pathway of your breathing. Feeling anchored and stable as you feel the contact of the soles of your feet with the floor or the ground. And just observe here, with this view to adapting your body position to whatever is comfortable and available to you at this time. Just understand and know that it doesn't matter really what position you're standing in, as long as you're comfortable and relaxed. Because you're all getting the benefit of coordinating the mind and the breath as you're in this position. You're hopefully all feeling strongly anchored and supported by the ground or the floor that you're standing on. Now, having said that, what you can do is also use your mind to visualize yourself in this ideal position of having the feet parallel. So even if they're not, have this idea and this picture in your mind of the feet being in the parallel position. So if your toes are slightly turned outwards, have the idea that the toes are turning back in towards each other. If the heels are slightly outwards, have the idea that the heels are coming back in towards each other into this parallel place. And even by thinking that and using your mind's eye to visualize that position, what you'll find is over time and with practice, you'll find it a little easier each time to get into the parallel foot position with no forcing, with no discomfort. Because where your mind goes, the chi follows. And as the chi follows, this opens up and dilates the pathways of flow, allowing for more energy, more blood, more fluid to come into the area, providing you with a little bit more flexibility and mobility in that area. So you see how you can use your mind to almost get yourself into your ideal position over time, but with no forcing at all, still remaining comfortable and relaxed. Now gently opening the eyes so that you can see me. So that shows you in a really simple way, and for those of you who've not done Qigong with me before, you might be thinking, well, is that it? That's just nothing happening there. You'll be surprised at how much is actually happening there. So it looks like I'm just standing here, or you may feel like you're just standing here. But if you would like to get yourself into that ideal standing position, then please don't underestimate the power of your mind and your breath to lead you in that direction. Now, you might never get there. You may never get to that ideal parallel foot position. As I said, it doesn't matter. You just want to be comfortable and relaxed. But if you do, then all the better. That's great. So that's one very simple way in which you can use your, just feel into your body and just adapt a position to your own level of flexibility and what's available to you.